Welcome to today's webinar, Moving Forward Together. The subject of today is unlocking digital communications in the time of COVID. Today I'm going to introduce your speakers first. My name is Walter Moore. I'm the Chief Technology Officer here at Arreya. Alongside me, I've got Mark Onanelli, our Creative Director, and Josh Steinke, our Developer. If you have questions during the webinar, please submit your questions in the live chat on Facebook or on YouTube, and we'll respond to them as soon as possible. So why are we here today? What has changed? At least half the American labor force is working from home. The Visa CEO expects the majority of the company's employees to work from home for the rest of 2020. The Gartner CFO survey reveals 74% of companies intend to shift some employees to remote work permanently. These are major changes in the workforce. Today, we're here to challenge ourselves to think about and look at what we know is normal so we can identify new ways to adapt our content to a changing environment where our audience is no longer gathering in a confined space, so we can grow our audience in person and remotely in order to succeed together. The big message is we're moving forward together. So things have changed for digital signage, but what does that really mean? When we look at how we've used digital signage traditionally, we're now seeing that viewers and users are remote. The screens we've put on the wall are no longer being seen. New types of messaging and interactivity are required to reach these users, and we have new technology that is enabling another shift in how we communicate. This time, we're not talking about in-person or remotely, we're talking about in-person and remotely. So we have a few challenges. One of our first challenges is how do you get content in front of your audience right now? How do you make content engaging and interactive? And when you think about some of the things happening right now with Twitter and Square announcing work from home forever as an option, how do you keep up with that? So with meeting this challenge, we have some existing features already that position us well. You already have these features available to you today. You may already be using them today. Things like interactivity, touch points, being able to share the link to your content publicly. The fact that we're browser-based, that you can pull us up on a phone or tablet or the screen that's on your wall. Those are all existing features in the foundation of Arreya. We've also enhanced this with some new features to help meet these challenges. I'm going to go through a few of these, like private link sharing and progressive web applications today. So one of our first new features is private link sharing. Private link sharing enables you to create a unique URL to your private content. A lot of our business customers and a lot of our schools and personal customers also use this with a private link, so people can only view the content if they have a login. This becomes cumbersome when you have thousands of users that need to view this link tomorrow. We have a lot of ways to do this already through single sign-on, through creating individual users within our interface, but we wanted to make it easier. So a lot like you're used to with other services like Office 365, Google Docs, and other web services, we've made it so you can create a sharing link for your private content. This enables you to share this link with anyone and they can see your content outside of your organization as long as they have this link. You can choose to disable it at any time. To enable it, you can go into your channel settings today and choose link sharing. Down below, a unique link will be generated, and you can copy and paste that link and send it to anyone else that needs to view your private content. Your channel remains private. Anyone visiting your main channel won't be able to view it unless they have the unique link. Another big feature we've enabled and some technology we've worked with is progressive web applications. With Arreya, you can now use Arreya to create and distribute apps for mobile, tablet, laptop, desktops, kiosks, and digital signage. Nearly any form factor. And when we say apps, we mean apps that look and feel like native applications on your device, like what you're used to finding in the App Store. You can use Arreya to create those today. There's no additional cost, and this feature we already have built in. So what are progressive web applications? Just like I was saying, they're applications like we're used to. If you're used to using a laptop and you have icons that you click on, whether it's on your desktop or a taskbar or a launcher, you can now use Arreya to create those apps with those icons. Same with a phone or a tablet. If you're used to going to an app store, it's even easier now. We don't need a store anymore. If you visit one of the Arreya applications, you'll actually be prompted to add it to your home screen. Your administrators can actually push those things out for you and control which apps people have access to. Some of the great things are these apps act and look like the apps you already know and use. They work on any device with a modern browser. They're not dependent on any certain technology or device. This is open technology. We're using new technology to make distribution easy. There's no longer an app store or review process, writing multiple versions for different platforms. We use this new technology to give apps the same abilities as native apps. So things like push notifications, changing the user interface on the phone to a certain color, we can do that through our web applications now. So how do we do that in Arreya? In Arreya, if you go into your channel settings, we now give you options for the icon, title and description, and the branding color. So when you go to your channel settings, you'll see these options today. And you can go ahead and type in your title, description, upload an icon, and choose your branding color. When you've done this, you're also going to see these options. On a desktop or a tablet, you're going to see options for things like installing the application or adding the home screen. When you visit your site, you'll be prompted to do this. Your administrators can also push these applications out to your device, whether it's a bookmark, a home screen, an application, or even a kiosk browser. So that's the big news. You can build progressive web applications today for almost any device using Arreya, and you have the control over the look, the feel, and the interface within it. But we have another challenge. We're talking a lot about remote users. Remote users have a lot of options. We have a lot of features for them. The other challenge that's coming up in all of this is how do we use digital signage to help reopen your business? There's a lot of new guidelines, new protocols, and new things that we're going to have to learn as far as how we work together. When we look at the graph on the right of which places are reopening, we can see that nearly every place is open for retail business. But there's a lot of new rules and restrictions that everybody needs to put up signage about and inform people about. Down below, we see that as of Wednesday, every state will be somewhere along the road towards a full reopening. So we have a number of ways we can meet these other challenges. The basic ways, through providing informational and protocol signage, converting paper to digital, menu boards, check-in sheets, things that we think might have to be paper can actually be digital. They can even be touchless. And that's where we get to advanced features like touchless interaction. We have things like voice capabilities, SMS, QR codes. We can trigger content based on viewer activity. Things like looking at a screen rather than touching it can trigger the content. We also come to things like automatic translation. How do you have screens that speak to users in multiple languages in interactive content? We can use automatic translation to make that happen. So today we're here to challenge ourselves and talk about adapting our content and growing our audience. I'm going to pass it off to Marco now so we can talk more about adapting your content.
All right, thanks, Walter. Now that he has answered the technology challenge, let's get into how to adapt your content to target this remote audience. So when thinking about this new way to use digital signage, there are two main challenges to adapt for. The first is, how can you integrate your content into this PWA format? And then, what should you modify in your communications to engage a remote audience? So this idea of remote audience was trending and probably happening in the next 5 to 10 years. But fast forward, because COVID-19 has instantly changed how we need to connect and communicate. Employees, visitors, customers are all going to be more remote, but still need a way to stay connected. What we have quickly discovered during this time of COVID-19 is content needs to be available no matter where people are. Sure, it's easy to reach a home computer, tablet, or phone, but the answer is not more emails or Zoom calls. And a website gets challenging when trying to integrate many sources of content. What you need is a PWA platform like Arreya that can handle your communications and provides that one source of engagement. So before I get into the how-to, let's identify good engagement for digital communications. When I think about engaging content, it's providing bits of knowledge or highlights, and then being able to change those weekly. It's about giving new perspective or insight from other sources. It's showing something helpful, inspiring, or entertaining, and this could be a testimonial or the latest video ad. It's giving a peek at something new or not seen before. For a sales team, this can be like an upcoming product. So when planning your digital communications, get creative. Find new sources of content, think about topics that relate, and make sure to add engaging content. So the goal here is to learn how to adapt content for engagement. There are 4 areas you need to adapt towards: visual branding, simple interaction, focused information, and dynamic integration. For visual branding, we know a brand is a representation of the values and culture of a company, but it also connects you to your content. Your brand needs to be present on all your pages because the appearance of your content is a first impression for engagement. So let's look at what visual branding includes. As I talk through these sections, I've compiled some examples of slides which will be running, but they're not timed to any of the features I'm discussing, so just follow along as they go through. The first thing is make sure to use your logo. Remote content still needs to create a sense of place. Much like a sign on a building, your logo welcomes people. Crisp and clear is what you're after. And if you need to request a logo, a high-quality PNG file with a transparent background is best. This will avoid having that white box around your logo. Next, maintain those branding standards. This would be the colors and the fonts that relate to your logo. If you have branding elements like shapes and backgrounds, you can bring those in. And know your colors. Don't just pick any green. Find out exactly what the green in your logo is. The goal is to appear professional. Don't forget to showcase who you are. Use your photos and videos to reinforce how your product or service makes a difference. This includes photos from events or people in your organization, and viewers will be more engaged when they see familiar faces or find pictures of themselves. So stay away from stock images and even snap some photos on your phone. So when creating your content, remember the branding. Next is simple interaction. The goal here is to create a streamlined interactive that welcomes ease of use and is comfortable to use again and again. This is not a website with drop-down navigations or scrolling content. When building for interaction, you need to use common elements, no more than 5 touch points, consistent placement, and what I call the 3-touch rule. The first thing is common elements. When creating navigation, keep buttons the same size and shape. Use common features you see in other apps, like rounded corners. And use the same font for all of your buttons. A tip here is to eliminate words and use icons like arrows or even a logo to get back to the home screen. Have no more than 5 touch points per screen. You want the focus to be on your content, so navigation should take up less than 20% of the screen. Too many buttons gets confusing. With less, you can quickly decide where to go. A tip here is not to make buttons too big because a user will overlook that it is clickable. Next is consistent placement. You want to avoid moving around at too many touch points. Menus need to be in the same place on all the pages and include back buttons in the corners. A tip here is that websites have top navigation, but for this interaction, the best practice is to have interactive at the bottom or to the right of the screen. The 3-touch rule. The idea here is to be able to reach content in 3 or less touches. This makes it easier to remember where to find specific content the next time you visit. Overall, you want a path that is easy to follow to avoid within too many pages. Now that branding and navigation is ready for engagement, let's establish how your content can be worked in. So to have continuous engagement, your content needs to inform and it has to be current. If not enough value is created, then a viewer may not return often. First is schedule your slideshow content. Let's eliminate those photos and messages that play again and again. repeating images get ignored. Arreya's widget options lets you apply a schedule to each slide. You can plan content to appear on a certain date, say for someone's birthday or even Friday with flashback images. A tip here would be to also add a schedule that removes the slides. Display goals and tasks. Providing reminders can be a source for employees to check in on. Goal lists can be the go-to for motivation. Using interactive Google calendars that can be scrolled and also provide more details. Also think about forums and surveys to engage. The topic can be anything like a choice of next Friday's Zoom meeting, or say constructive feedback on the latest product. My tip here is to always post survey results and display how many people completed it. This can drive engagement for the next survey. And use listings. These are easy ways to update and boost engagement. Post things like service anniversaries, monthly birthdays, recognize achievements. A good tip here is try to have listings that change often. Include wins and challenges met. Use visual charts or graphs. Post live values from spreadsheets. And you can even include analytics, like how many signups you had today, or what is the call center volume. Now, the last thing to adapt is dynamic integration. These are those widgets that auto-feed content into your display. They use sources from the web to keep news and information live. Content just magically appears and you don't have to do much work. One popular source is Twitter. Everyone knows the platform, and it's a simple widget to add to your page. It can be your own company's account, or like address industry experts, or maybe it's a popular local feed. And if you want to get really social, you can create a Twitter dashboard with multiple feeds happening on the page. Even use weather. This adds a little bit of information to engage with. It's always relevant because weather is always changing, and it's something we always pay attention to. Our weather widget can also include a 5-day forecast and be pinpointed to an actual location. You can run news feeds. The RSS widget will play content. This can be scrolling messages or in slideshow format. Use your own website feeds or even subscribe to specific types of content. A tip here is think educational, like health tips, and even right now, COVID awareness. And you can go live. With the YouTube widget, you can be live from any location while you engage with your audience. Make a live announcement or get more creative using your phone. You can be showing the latest equipment or even a product that is being produced. And the last thing to touch on is stock tickers. This content is always changing and adds continuous interest. You can include your own stock, other symbols, and markets in general. Now, as you think about your communications and reaching this new remote audience, I hope these insights on branding, interaction, and content will help you adapt to this changing environment. We have now explored how to meet this new challenge and now learned how to adapt content to engage a remote audience. Now Josh is going to showcase how companies have grown their digital content to answer this need. Take it away, Josh.
Thank you, Marco. So as Marco was saying, in this section, what we're going to be talking about is how to grow your digital signage by showing you how some of our other clients are already using their content to for remote communications. So the goal of this section is to give you some ideas of how you can use your current content or new content to communicate effectively moving forward. So I'm going to talk about using your content as a centralized location for news and other important information. Employees, students, clients, customers, right now they're getting buried in marketing emails, and it's really important to give them a central location just where they can go and get the information that they need as quickly as possible. So the last important point that I want to talk about is how we can use these examples and how some clients are already using these examples to deploy their content via multiple channels to reach that widest audience as possible. So this first example that I'm going to show you is a university that used Arreya to create an interactive Hall of Fame board for their athletics department. And their athletics department has filled that with student athletes' photos, awards, and different accomplishments. So this actual content is installed in a touchscreen kiosk in the gymnasium at the building on campus. So in its current form, it's already a great way to keep those parents and those alumni up to date. Also remotely though too, because they can share that content just using the Arreya channel URL, which is just a built-in feature and a key feature of Arreya, just by sending out this URL via whatever platform they choose, whether that be Twitter, Facebook, or other social media. So the same people that could, not necessarily view it in person because of, distance or whatever, they can go and they can see that same content just via their web browser. The other thing they can do is they can also show off pictures from previous events or even videos, news from upcoming events or, news from previous event statistics, and even the outcomes. The other thing they can do is they can also schedule live streams through different services like YouTube, Vimeo, and some of the other ones that are out there. The other thing that they can do is they can also share that same link via different, Facebook groups for the community. So people around the campus can know what's going on and attend different games and get more information, just keep the community knowing what's happening. Some examples that aren't necessarily included in this example, but sort of fit in that same school category, could be something along the lines of, keeping its students up to date or its parents or staff up to date with ever-changing schedules. Obviously, events are being canceled, rescheduled a lot right now, and it's really important to give them somewhere where they can go and view those schedules. So whether you use integrations like Google Slides or Outlook to bring in those calendars, the idea is you can give them, once again, a central location where they can go and they can keep up to date with those really quickly changing schedules. And also you can use scheduling, embed different schedules to say, come back next Wednesday at 5 p.m. We're going to be doing a live stream right here on this page. So bring up the same channel next week at 5 p.m. to watch the live stream of the event. And then the last sort of less tangible benefit of this sort of thing is it really keeps people connected. So even though they're not physically in the same location, they're not physically on campus, it gives them a grounding point. It gives them a good way for the staff, the students, and also parents to stay connected even while they're working remotely. So the next example that I'm going to show you is a little bit more in the employee communication, a little bit more of the business vertical. So this example that I'm going to show you is one of our clients that they're using interactive content to communicate with their internal sales staff and also employees that work closely with them, management teams and such. So the content I'm going to show you is actually based off of their real content, but actual identifying information and sensitive sales information has been removed purely at their request. So the main goal of this example is to communicate with remote working employees, and once again, to keep them connected to other employees and also the management teams. So first I'm going to click on this sales news section up at the top right. So this is sort of a landing page where they can just give a little bit of sales news. But what's more important about this sort of thing is they want to be able to recognize and congratulate their sales team after big wins or customer successes or big milestones. And that's really a key way for them to keep their staff motivated and connected with each other, even when they're not physically present at the same office. Other things that they can do with this is they also have a lot of remote sales team and a lot of remote sales staff that constantly travel. So keeping them up to date with what's happening with the company is extremely important to them. So expanding on that a little bit, this channel can actually be installed, like Walter was talking about earlier, as a PWA on a user's mobile devices. So using different policies through Windows and Google, they can actually force install this PWA application on all their users' mobile devices or a bookmark or even a desktop application. So it's a native just link that they can click on their taskbar or their desktop that takes them to this channel with all of the up-to-date sales and company information. And then they also want to give a section for creating news regarding new products or updates to release dates, announcement schedules, communication, communicate any delays with the upstream or products that may even be releasing ahead of schedule. Another important thing that they're really big on and want to create and make really easy is a place to give product information, to provide their sales team with information about product lines, or even have a page for every single product or just line of products that the salespeople can quickly access and provide their potential customers with or their existing customers. So what they have here is they have sort of a cheat sheet. So it's got prices, it's got volume discounts, it has model numbers, and basically when the sales staff is on the phone or even on location with a client, they can bring up this channel on their phone or even on their laptop or tablet, whatever device they're using, and quickly find the information that they need to provide to their clients without digging through tons of data sheets, without digging through an intranet portal with tons of PDFs and spec sheets. They can go right to this channel just using that, once again, that PWA, that native app. They can click on the product line they're looking for and get exactly the information that they need as quickly as possible. So once again, their staff is getting, drowned in emails, intranet sites with hundreds of PDFs with data sheets and spec sheets. So giving them a central location where they can go and get the information that they need to provide to customers was really a key point of this content. And then the last thing that they like to do with this content is give it a little bit more of an overall look at what the company is doing. So this page here, this just has some stock information and a couple Twitter feeds from different news sources. But what they could do is they could use their own Twitter feed. They could generate multiple Twitter feed, Facebook, RSS, or even YouTube videos or YouTube live streams. So really give the sales staff and the remote working employees a good idea of what's going on really high up at the company. And this doesn't necessarily have to be stock prices. This could be, call center volumes or sales volumes or pretty much any other data that can pull from numerous different sources. One of the things that Marco was talking about with dynamic widgets, pulling that data from tons of different sources and keeping it up to date. And once again, pulling it from existing sources. So the next example that we're going to look at is a little bit different example, and I'll explain as we go along why it's a little bit different. So this is actually a portrait presentation, as you're seeing here on my screen. And it's based off of a city government client that wanted to use Arreya to create an application to direct its users or its visitors around the campus during a major construction project. So what makes this example a little bit different is that the client never intended to actually install this on any kiosks. The idea from the beginning was just to use it on mobile devices, whether that be a phone or a tablet or something else, portrait orientation. So using Arreya's web content, web-based content delivery system and directing the users to the content just via that link in their browser, the user can bring up this mobile wayfinding sort of application on any mobile device. And then on top of that, like Walter was talking about earlier, Arreya's ability to install that channel as a PWA allowed them to install that channel as if it was a native app on their device. So that way they can easily access that information once they get on campus. So like parking information or attractions, or they can even bring it up ahead of time at home on their desktop computer or once again on their mobile device. So before they go and make that trek to that urban area with a lot of traffic, they can figure out exactly where they're going, find more information about the building locations or directions to maybe food or other attractions that they might need once they get on campus. So like I was saying, the first thing you're going to notice is that it is portrait, so it's letterboxed here on my landscape screen, but on a mobile device in portrait mode, you would see obviously it'd fill the entire screen. So at the bottom, you're going to see large icons. So the part of the idea of this content was making it as mobile friendly as possible. So limiting it to, 4 main features. And what they can do is they can go in here and obviously use it on a desktop as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be just portrait. You can use it on a desktop just to the same effect. So not only can you do, for example, if they wanted to go in and find a county department and a map to where that building may be, or if they know what service they're looking for, motor vehicle registrations, for example, they can go in and figure out exactly where in the building that they need to go. But this doesn't necessarily just have to be buildings, offices, services. You could build a directory of parking garages along the buildings, or, a directory of parking lots, or maybe, for example, providers at a hospital or locations of a classroom if it's a school campus. So remote users can quickly figure out where they're going to go once again before making that trip. So once they're on location, they know exactly where they need to go and complete the trip. And the content can also have numerous integrations in it. So this one is pretty simple in the sense that it just has bird's eye Google Maps embedded in here. But it doesn't necessarily just have to be a bird's eye view map. It could be satellite imagery. It could be pictures, videos, or even embedding virtual 360-degree tours. And you'll see there's a lot more once again than just listings. For example, you could advertise local restaurants or partners working. If you have a restaurant working with you during that time, put their listing on here and put images, videos, and different information about what they need when they're on location. So in closing, the main ideas that from this section about growing your content that I'd like you to remember is that you really need to give your audience a central location where they can get that information as effectively as possible. One of the core ideas of digital signage and also, remote communications with digital signage. People are drowning in a sea of emails, so it's really importantly to make sure you also effectively communicate with, students and staff and faculty, for schools, or employees, clients, customers for the more business vertical. The most important thing I like to take away, and one of the really most important things I like to stress, is that think about how you can use this content delivery through the different forms that Arreya already offers, and maybe some of the ones you're not used to with, PWAs or private link sharing, or just sharing that channel URL, via social media, email, or, different methods. The idea here is making the content available to the widest possible audience. Try to get as many people as possible to view that content through the various methods that Arreya offers. So if you do have any questions over anything that we have covered in this webinar, we are always happy and always available to help at support@arreya.com is the primary email address, or the phone number on the screen. We'll leave it up here for a couple minutes. And we also encourage everybody to visit the website when we're done today. If you haven't already signed up for 30-day, 100% fully featured trial where you can try out everything you see here today, anything from creating content to actually deploying it via PWAs or just link sharing. Also, we have we're working on a blog section. So there's a couple of new blogs and knowledge base articles in the knowledge base section that talk about PWAs. So this is something that you can hop in and you can play with right now and test out different ways to deploy your content. So now we're going to take a couple seconds and we are going to we're going to cover a couple questions that we've got in the chat. I'm going to pop them up here on the screen. If you do have any other questions, feel free to add them in here. Otherwise, if we don't have time to answer your question during this time, you can always reach out to us, support@arreya.com, or by phone. So let's go ahead and we're going to cover a couple of questions that we've got in chat while we've been on here. So Ken is asking, how is using the web app on a mobile device different than a URL in the browser? There's a couple different things going on here. So with PWAs, you can actually install it as a native app on the device. So it doesn't have a URL bar, and you can actually customize the branding so it looks exactly what you want it to look like. So you can change the brand colors, you can change the logo, and then it's going to install just like any other app on your phone. The other thing you can do eventually is do push notifications as well. So you're going to be able to, if you update that content, you can send out a push notification that'll actually alert the user to new updates and things that you've added to the content. One of the things I want to highlight that Larice asked earlier is with PWAs, she asked, can you brand the app with your own logo? And yes, you definitely can. So that's one of the core things with PWAs is the ability to customize the branding to your app. So you do have the ability. I also did post a link in another comment if you want to check it out, but it's also on the knowledge base under the PWA section. So you can change the logo, the brand color, and the title and the description for the PWA. So when you install it on the user's device, you will see your customized logo, and if there's any brand coloring that the different operating systems use different brand coloring where they pull that information in. But if there is a section that needs to be colored, it will use that brand color as default. And it looks like that's all the questions we have for this time. Like I said, if you do have any other questions, we are always happy to help. We're always available to help via email or phone. Don't hesitate to reach out if you do have any questions regarding anything that we have covered. So next, we do have a gift package available for all the guests. So keep an eye out for the follow-up email. We're going to be sending out a form that you can fill out and we can mail it to you. If you do want the gift package and you attended the webinar, but you did not pre-register, we'll have the registration link up on the website after this for a while. So feel free to jump in there and fill that out, and we'll make sure that we can get that gift package sent to you. Also, a recording of this webinar is going to be available on our YouTube channel, which is also linked on our website. So if you do want to revisit anything that we've talked about during this webinar, that recording is going to be available very shortly after the webinar is complete. And then finally, we do appreciate everybody's time. We wish you guys stay safe. And once again, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about, setting up content for remote communications or setting up PWA content. And once again, just remember, we're all in this together moving forward. And lastly, we hope everybody has a great day, and thank you for your guys' time.